Today, what we're going to focus on is QBOT V3 Pro. We're going to look at some of the Pro features that we have. And for those of you that have been following along all week, I've been really focusing just on the QBOT V3 Basic app. Today, we'll look at some of the Pro features in the Pro app. But first, I want to go over and show you the bag that we did yesterday. We had quilted out or sewn out all of the patterns and the cut lines on that mini tote. Let's take a look at it. It's all complete now. And here it is, right here. So there are those scallops that we did and matched up so nicely with the edge-to-edge work. Remember, it was a vertical edge-to-edge. So the top and bottom were our edges. There's that ribbon that we added. Here's that cross hatching, and you can see the texture that adds. And then this was finished off with a nice little pocket for your ID in there and some lining and some handles, and that came out really great. So now we're going to focus on today, staying right here. You know how if you've ever gotten a quilt or made a quilt, and I've exaggerated everything here, but you have that inner border or sashing strip that is crazy like this, and then you try to quilt something in it. If you were going to do this on just a standard system or the standard app, you could put in a perfect edge-to-edge or border design in there, and I have it on the frame as well. If we look at the frame, and I'll try to sight down the fabric here, and you can see, and I'm looking at the screen to my right so I can show this. Here we've put in the edge-to-edge really nicely. Okay, this is just a straight design, but you can see the border is all wonky, and so we have all kinds of gaps. And there it's up, there it's tight. Well, we have a feature called Smart Fit that can take care of that. So here I have a duplicate parallel line. So if you look at this, I'll focus on my upper here. This is actually a curved line. And then here down here, this is a parallel offset of that. And then I have a third one right here, which is a parallel offset of that. So with our Smart Fit feature, which is in the Pro app, I can select this boundary and then automatically use the Smart Fit feature, and it tweaks and moves this design inside that area. And the result is now, instead of it looking mechanically quilted here, where the border is, or the edges are organic, yet the quilting looks completely robotic and machine made. Now this looks perfect, but QBOT has made all kinds of changes to that design. It has skewed it, rotated it as that border has gone, or the inner sashing. Those are typically the places where you find this as a problem. It has automatically skewed that, rotated it, and made it just fit so it looks natural. So your eye isn't drawn to some kind of disastrous contrast between perfect quilting and not so great piecing. So let's do that. Let's show you how easy it is to do the Smart Fit feature. I go into Pattern Quilting, and I'm going to use my offset. So 5 days in a row, I'm using my offset right there. And I'm going to select the border of this design, the boundary of this design. And I'm just focusing right on that stitch line. Imagine that was the ditch in our piecing. And I'm taking very small steps and selecting points. And the reason I do that is that I want to capture all of that curvature. I don't want to have just 3 points, because then it would just be this triangular shape. And when I did a Smart Fit, it would fit it better, but not nearly as nicely as when I select the boundary perfectly. So I'm going around, and again, the bottom is just a parallel offset of that. Actually, I want to capture that corner a little bit better. And this is important. This is an important step to take if you really want to get professional results in your quilt. And if you take in quilts for others, we have many, many customers that take in quilts and quilt them using QBOT as a business. And you really don't want to offend your customer, especially if they bring you multiple quilts a year. You might want to say, here, I used a special feature because your piecing was a little bit off, to subtly say, hey, step it up a notch. But you know, you don't want to offend your customer so much. You just want to say thank you, and we'll get that out to you shortly. So here we selected the boundary nicely. I press done. I don't have an inner boundary to do. And I'm going to go into our, I think it's in edge to edge borders. Let's see, this design here, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of modern, kind of looks like Minions a little bit. I'm going to modify this, and it quilts out quickly enough for a demonstration. I'm going to set it in there, and then I will chain it because it's not quite long enough. But there you can see on the left-hand side, or the left-hand top, I'm very close to the boundary selection, and on the bottom side here, on the bottom right-hand side, I'm actually outside the boundary. Well, if we quilted that out, that would just look terrible. So we get it as close as a fit as we can. And then we just say up in the upper left, Smart Fit. We get a dialog box that says, what boundary margin do you want to put around it? And I like to use 1/8 of an inch boundary, a little margin of error, for instance. So I put in my 1/8 of an inch, 0.125. And look at that, it automatically corrected that design. And now it flows with the design and looks natural. Now, for those of you really paying attention, you'll notice that the right and left-hand sides of the design are too far in. And you're right, they are. And that's because the mathematics behind this feature get a little bit strange when we're doing the math when you get to vertical lines, because it's interpolating between those boundaries, and when it's just a mathematical, it ends up that way. It's a little bit of a strange thing. So what we do is we hit the proportional scaling off button, and I just stretch it out just a bit. And then, so everything still looks very nice. And then I turn on my trim, and I trim to the boundary and press OK. I say done, it trims it, and we're ready to move to the start point. So we just move to the start point. And pull up our bobbin thread, which I did. Kind of scoop that under. And then press go. This also highlights, you know, what's kind of neat. We've skewed this design, yet we still have these beautiful circle shapes that are very, very hard to quilt by hand. And if we were trying to fill this space and it was wonky like this and we were doing it by hand, trust me, your hand-eye coordination to make this come out this nice has got to be really some of the best. And there are quilters out there that can do it. I'm not saying they're not, but the typical quilter that is quilting a quilt every couple of weeks, the casual user that's not working on their skill on a daily basis, QBOT makes that very, very easy. And if you look, you can see that we're keeping our little margin in the top and bottom, and it's doing a beautiful, beautiful fill. Some of the other features with just QBOT in general that I didn't really touch on too much, maybe touched a little bit, is the compatibility we have with all quilting frames and machines. We have a compatibility list on our website, myqbot.com, and it's also on Sewing Machine Plus's website. We have the ability, of course, to add designs. I haven't talked at all about how many designs come with QBOT. It's about 291 unique designs. that come with QBOT. And if you go online, you can download any robotic quilting pattern. They usually come as packages. When you buy a design online, they have the designs for all the different formats. And .plt is the QBOT format, or .4QB. That was the encrypted format when we first came out with QBOT so many years ago. Okay, so now we're here and we're going to exit that design, and I'll just trim my threads. And you can see, we'll go here onto this cam here. You can see how nicely that quilted out. And if we looked down well, even by looking down the length, we would see it waver. But when you look at the quilt, if this were hanging or on a bed, you wouldn't even see that. Next, we have in the Pro version, we have a little bit of an update to our 4-point quick scale. And what we've done there is we've also added the margin capability on that. But I always like showing 4-point quick scale because it's one of those features, whether you're in the regular app or the Pro app, it's one of those features where it's this easy to get quilting. It's just this quick to get quilting. So here we go. We're going to choose the quilting area. We're going to choose our upper right. And then you can see in the upper left of the screen, it says choose lower right. Again, I'm using my laser pointer offset. And then I choose my upper left and lower left. Now, what's neat in the Pro version is I can put in my block. Let's see, what kind of block do I want to do? Let's go into blocks and let's do something neat. We'll do, let's see, this guy right here. And I select the design and it says margin gap. This is exactly what we did with the Smart Fit. It's such a popular feature that we added it to 4-point quick scale. So we're going to do the same. Let's go an 3/16 of an inch. So we'll go 0.187 is 3/16 of an inch. And there is our design automatically fit to that area with a 3/16 of an inch boundary around it. We move to our start point. Pull up the bobbin thread. I'll get it and press go. What are some other things that are peculiar to or particular to QBOT? QBOT runs on an Android tablet, and the Android tablet is any tablet of your choice. Right now, I think our minimum requirement is an Android tablet with Android 5 operating system. However, I would recommend using an Android tablet that has the operating system of 8 or above. Right now, the current Android version is 12, so it's backward compatible quite a bit. There's lots of tablets available that are Android 10 that work just fine and are a little bit lower priced. But the user provides that tablet. So you, the quilter, provide your own tablet. The reason we did this, we made that choice, is that if we picked a tablet and then supplied it, then you're kind of locked into that technology, which ages. And we didn't want to be that technology that ages. So while the QBOT, which is mounted onto the back of the machine, that technology doesn't change. It is just a solid workhorse of the system. The user interface will change in time, and I can't predict what will happen in 5 years. And we wanted to have a product that would last, you know, the 25, 30-year lifespan that we enjoyed with those sewing machines that we grew up with. So that's why we do that. The app is available on the Google Play Store. It's downloaded just like any other app that you would put on your phone or on your tablet. And because of that, it is any updates are also through the Google Play Store. So if you have automatic updates turned on, anytime we update the app with bug fixes or added features or added designs, your app is automatically updated. You really don't even have to think about it. Okay, another feature that we have is on our main screen, we have text quilting. So that's the lower right button. I press that, and this is a great way to just make, you can type in names, words. If you want to do an I Spy quilt and put in all the fun things, you can do that. We'll do a quick sample today. We're just, all you do, very simple. There's only 2 buttons that you could possibly press at this point: enter text or install new TrueType font. We're going to enter text, and I already know the word I want to do, and I'm kind of cheating here just because of time. If you think about quilting out letters, some letters like E's, they're going to have the outside and then they're going to have the inside, and those are jump stitches. And I don't want to do that today. I just want to, put in a word, press go, and have it quilt out. So that's what I'm going to do. And it turns out that a good word to do is funny. It's a funny word. And if you look at funny so long while you're doing this, it starts to look funny. Okay, what you notice here is that the letters, when I bring that in, the letters are overlapping each other, and we don't want that to quilt out that way. So we have a little slider that says remove overlap. So it processes that and removes all of that overlap. Now, we can also change the fonts that we want to use. Say we wanted to do it in Futura. So there it is in a different font. Say I wanted to do it in Sign Painter. And these are the standard fonts that come in. Here you can see exactly what I was talking about. In the F on the left and in the Y on the right, you can see the outside is one path, and then there are 3 other paths that have to be quilted. So I'm going to stick with my script font. And there it is. I've got my overlap, and I'm going to save that pattern. I'm going to call it funny. Just like that. Now, the text editor, or the text maker, that's all it does. You can use that not connected to your QBOT. So if you're just sitting and you want to generate lots of words while you're watching TV, you can start up the tablet, start up the app, and do both the designer feature and the text feature. So that's what I did. So now that that's saved, I just hit the back arrow button. And now it's just a pattern. So I go into Pattern Quilting. I choose my boundary. And I know this is a perfect rectangle because QBOT quilted it out earlier. So I'm just going to select 4 points, press done, no inner boundary. I go to my saved patterns, pull up my funny, and there it is. And the start point was illuminated, and it's right next to that Y over there. I saw it pop up for a second. It's right there, so I'm going to move to the start point, pull up my bobbin thread, and press go. So we'll let that quilt out. This is a great way to personalize quilts. Even use your own name if you'd like. You can also use the record feature to record your name. And that would be like a line font if you just record it. There are line fonts available online, and line fonts are usually used in engraving systems. And in a way, a quilting system is like an engraving system. It's, instead of having a spinning tool that's engraving, it's a needle that's poking fabric. But there are some line fonts like that available where it just does a line and it does backtracking over itself as if you're cursive writing. Any TrueType font can be brought into QBOT. So there's lots of TrueType fonts on your computer, downloadable. I don't know, there's a bajillion, it seems like now, of free fonts that you can download. And using the text feature, you can pull it in and you can see how it's quilting out now. It doesn't look funny. It looks great. All right. Pull up our bobbin thread. Okay, now there's one other feature that's really neat in Designer, or in QBOT V3 Pro, and it is Designer. So I'm going to press the Designer button, and I'm going to design on the quilt. So what this does is, this gives you the ability, well, there were two choices. It gives you the ability to design on the quilt or off the quilt. Off the quilt is if you're sitting at home in your comfortable chair, and you can pick an area and pull in designs and edit them, link them. And this is really good for edge to edge work, because when we're doing edge to edge, when I do edge to edge, I like to do it. And well, I'll confess, I like to start the QBOT and walk away, which I recommend you don't do, because you should always be watching for thread breaks and bobbins and running out and stuff like that. But we all do it because life's busy. So what I like to do is pull up the Designer, link my edge to edges together for as much as I can fit in for one quilting pass. And on the Moxie, it's about 10 3/4 inches. So I can go back maybe, depending on the density of the design, 2 times if it's a larger quilt and it's a little broader, or 3 times if it's a smaller quilt. And I can have it quilt the row, come back. And you get to know about how much bobbin you're going to use, and you get to know that your tension's right as you grow into your machine, and you get that confidence. I wouldn't do it immediately, but you get that confidence. So let's do that. Let's put something in this last panel here, the last open spot for Quilt Fest 2022. I'm using my offset again, my laser. I'm going to set the boundary points. This is again a perfect rectangle, but I'll select a point in the middle just to be sure. Just like that. And I'll say done. Now, you'll notice there's a little tab at the bottom right of the screen, and that's a little film strip tab. So let's put in an edge-to-edge design, or an element that will turn into an edge-to-edge design. Let's do this guy right here. And so you'll see that appeared down at the bottom. And I want to do 2 rows of this. So I'm going to put in 2 seeds. We call them seeds. That's what I like to call them. So I've got these 2 seeds that I'm going to work with. So I'm going to pull that up. And now I'm going to I'll say done. That's all I'm going to do here. Now I've got my modify screen. And I'm going to modify this so that I can get 2 rows. And again, this is just a simulation of doing an edge to edge, because we want to see it get all quilted out nicely, but we do want to do it within the time that we have. So I'm going to scale this to, I think 2.6 inches is nice. And while I'm there, I'm going to scale the bottom one too, because we want both rows to be the same. 2.6, okay. And we'll go up to the top one again. I clicked the design in the film strip at the bottom, and that's what switched it over. I'm going to chain it, and I'll put 3 of them in there. And it goes off the right edge, but that's fine. Then the bottom one, I will chain it, and it goes off the right edge, and that's fine. But I need to make sure they nest a little bit better, because it doesn't look quite right yet. That looks pretty good. What I'm looking at is the space in between the rounded shapes from the first row within the design. I'm trying to match that so that the second row comes in and it doesn't, because when it's all quilted out, you'll never notice it. So I like that. I'm going to trim this to the boundary. And then, but I also want to reverse the path on the second one. So I want it to quilt over and then down and then back in one shot. And let's see if that works. And oh, I know what I did. I need to go back to modify. It didn't work because I had selected the bottom one and did a reverse after I'd done the trim. So let me do the trim to the boundary again. And I think I'm good now. I think so. No, I'm not. Let me go back to modify. Let's see. So I guess let's chain that one more time. Start fresh. We're starting fresh. Now we're here. We'll reverse the path and then we'll trim to the boundary and maybe that'll get it. If not, then we'll file a bug report. Well, we're going to have to file a bug report, but that's okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't do my linking. It did it right. It was me. Now that it's linked, see, it even happens to me. I wasn't paying attention to the buttons on the left. I needed to link them first. Then it will do all of it correctly. So everything's going to be just fine. So I say save it, because if this were a real quilt, we're going to quilt this again. And we want to pull that in as we roll the quilt and do it again. So we're going to save it as edge. We'll just be quick about it and then press done. And now okay. I hit done and not quilt now. The good news is I saved it. So everything's actually okay. So we go into pattern quilting. If I hit quilt now, it would have gone right to the screen and we would be right where we're about to be right now. So I select that, I press done, no inner boundary, saved patterns. Edge is here. It's right there, it's perfect. And I don't have to modify it because I had the same boundary, move to start. So even, I guess that's a good demonstration of how easy it is to recover if you accidentally hit the wrong button. So we're right there, right back where we needed to be. And we press go. We had about a 15-second detour. So that actually turned out to be a pretty good example. When you're using Designer and say we did that procedure and we were designing off the quilt, when you press save and then done, you're done because you've done that design and you can move on to the next thing you wanted to design. We put in the quilt now feature just to make it, to shorten that trip and make it all within the Designer if you were on the quilt. So it worked out good. So that kind of highlights one of the things too, is the ease of use of QBOT. You're only ever, with QBOT, you're only ever into menus, maybe one or two buttons. At the beginning screen, you hit pattern quilting or line quilting or applique echo, and then the left-hand panel of the screen will lead you through the quilting process. Another thing that sets QBOT aside is that we have a really vibrant online community. We have, we don't run the group, but there is a group on Facebook called We Love QBOT. And let me tell you, those guys and gals that run that and are on that board, if you have a question any time of day or night in any country that you're in, we have so many Australian customers that, you know, we're not open when they're open. It just doesn't work, but we'll answer our emails. We'll get back to you. But if you need that right now, that group is really essential to have that camaraderie, and everyone on that group is very helpful. It's a great, great community. We also have a group on groups.io, which is a little bit more of the old school group for those of you that might have been on Yahoo groups, and that got converted over to Groups.io. And there's a lot of technical information because you can save files and all kinds of instructions and so forth, and pictures as well. So that makes it a really nice group to be a part of, actually. Very, very welcoming group. So here, this is quilting out, and we're just about out, but we got it going. I want to show you as it turns the corner and heads back, and then we'll hand it back to Blaine. Just about there. So again, looking at the quilt here, since I used my precision pointer, you can see it nailing that edge to edge. So if this were an inner border where we're quilting the main field of the quilt in an edge to edge before we get to the borders, you can feel confident that you're going to nail it right into the ditch like that. And here you can see it's going to make its turn, and now it's going to quilt back to the other side.